Hello and welcome to Section B1T1's global presentation. Today we're going to tackle a couple questions. Should Global enter the home services market? If so, which ones? And who are the players and their competitive positions? First, we're going to do a light overview of each of the three industries we're looking at. First, with commercial cleaning services. So specifically, we're looking at the platforms that use cleaning services. What we notice most interestingly is that this is a very growing market at 53% forecasted 10-year industry CAGR. Another thing that's really important about this industry is having a strong digital media presence because now these services are getting a lot more transparency on the web. Consumers are having a lot more selection when they're looking for them. In terms of competitive landscape, we do find it to be highly fragmented. However, there are some key players with some market stake already, like Helpling, TaskRabbit, AskForTask, and within that, there's some light strategic alliances among these applications. Moving to the beauty service industry, you can see here that it's really strong, especially in Spain. However, most of it's offline, but there are some new trending adoptions towards the digital environment. So you can see about half now have a social network account and starting to do some reaching out to consumers digitally. On the competitive landscape side, it's interesting because about 40% of beauty salons have one employee. So these aren't necessarily large operations. So there is a lot of agility there. You look at how people can book these appointments. Well, they can do it online through a couple players such as Style Privé, Urban and Urban. Moving to our third industry is home maintenance. This is a bit of a more mature industry. You can see the last 5 years, they've had a CAGR of just 3%. A lot of this is still as in a more traditional model. However, the trends are moving, again, more digital. Consumers want to book appointments fast. They want to have the service come quickly. They don't want to wait very long after they have an issue with their home. So they're really valuing this time. In terms of competitive landscape, it is quite fragmented among a lot of small businesses. A lot of carpenters and mechanics who can fix things. We also have this substitute here, do it yourself. So a lot of people are learning things on YouTube. They're getting products and tools, and they're starting to help improve their homes on their own. So something to keep an eye on. And when we talk about Glovo, we want to look really at what they're doing well right now and see how they can leverage this into a potential new market, right? See if there's any use of their core competencies that they can use. And right now we focus on brand logistics, funding, and technology. Specifically in brand, we know they're already doing really well in Spain. They have really loyal customers, and they're starting to adopt some membership options to increase the switching costs. Logistics, they understand Spain. They know the road, the culture, the regulations. So they have no trouble operating in Spain. On the tech side, they're incorporating some ML. They're getting some really good information about their customers. They already have the app. So they have the tech to do this. And then on the funding side, they're getting a lot of funding. They're continuing to raise. They're actually worth now over 1 billion. Now, when we look at the sectors, we can see actually a lot of commonalities among the cleaning, beauty, and home maintenance. Therefore, we actually were able to just lump them into a similar analysis. Specifically, we looked at three forces: competition, power of suppliers, power of customers. We all identified them as quite high in terms of barriers to entry. So we see here that competition's high. You have black markets, you have do-yourself substitutes, you have a lot of other small businesses. Uh, you have the offline, of course, as well. In terms of suppliers, the suppliers don't have control of the output and service. So Glovo, runs a lot of risk when they add on new folks to provide services. So that's something to keep an eye on. And in terms of the customer, they have a lot of power. They can choose among various different options. They can give reviews. They can compare prices. So we feel that all three have quite high marks on this. Now, something to make note of course, if Glovo wants to expand into these three industries, is how will it synergize with their current competencies. So we created a little bit of a metric here, high, low impact. So you can see the branches that are dashed are a little bit lower impact in terms of it won't affect too much of what they're already doing versus this high impact. So we feel that on the tech, HR, and infrastructure side, there will be a lower impact on global, which is a good thing. It won't create too much disruption. And on the customer side, there will be a high impact. They will be able to offer even more services to their already active customer base. So very, very interesting to look at the synergy side as well in this analysis. So this leads us to our conclusion, which is, well, first, before we get to the recommendation, our conclusion of summarizing all of these industries. And what we found is that in terms of profitability, all three offer quite low profitability. They're quite thin on the margin side. However, on the customer acquisition, they do look quite attractive. And as well on the Glovo's ability to expand into these markets, they all were either attractive. They were all actually attractive. So we feel that Glovo has a good opportunity. They already have the existing infrastructure. And then potential synergies, as we illustrated earlier, there are a lot of opportunities for them to leverage their core competencies to expand into these three markets. So that brings us to our most important slide here. Our findings and what we recommend. So all three industries offer very attractive customer volumes. So that's definitely something that Glovo wants to keep in mind. However, they don't have the best margins. So if Glovo wants to jump into these markets, they really need to penetrate well. They need to realize these economies of scales. Otherwise, they'll just be hemorrhaging profit. And that's an emphasis for Glovo more recently, as they're trying to become not just a platform with a bunch of active users, but a platform that's actually churning profit for its shareholders. So how can they do this? Well, they do have strong brand. They do have a good user base already. So in Spain specifically, they can already offer to a lot of active users. So that's a big, and people trust Glovo. People like how they're doing in the food delivery. On the infrastructure side, we went over some of the synergies earlier. They're going to be able to jump and take customers much more quickly than offline players who have no digital presence at the moment. In other competing platform applications we saw in Spain don't really hold up in terms of customer loyalty, and we feel that Glovo's existing infrastructure could allow them to jump in here. So looking at all those factors, but also understanding that these three industries don't yield the most immediate profitability, we kind of have this medium ground recommendation, right? So we feel that a pilot program of all three service lines, cleaning, beauty, and maintenance, similar as Amazon Go piloted into just Seattle store, should be used in Barcelona. And this experience doesn't need much extensive upfront costs. They can use agile methodologies, so they can constantly make tweaks as they go, as they get more customer feedback, and from there, gauge what they want to do in the future for this, right? So, why do we think this is the best approach? Well, there's no reason to be too eager and jump into a bunch of countries and offer all of these services at the same time. This is just too risky. So we feel that they have the time still right now to test it in Barcelona. And then from there, if it goes well, then they can go into Madrid and then eventually into other countries. If it doesn't work out, then they may, they can consider just putting on the shelf with not much damage done to their bottom line. This all being said, we do want to put into light the fact that, the data analysis that we did to come to this finding doesn't necessarily account for all of the losers. As the data was publicly displayed, it really only tracks companies that are offering this publicly and are still actively in operation. So something to keep into consideration. Thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to seeing what Glovo does in the future.